Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I hope you're well. I'm coming to the end of another month 64 I think. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be repeating myself I think. Tick tock, 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 tick tock. Time! It's broken. Honestly, my sense of time, I don't mean time during the day, but time in terms of days, weeks, months, years, it's so warped at the moment. I can't get my head around it. This month's gone really quickly again, and yeah, the whole year's gone quickly. There are a couple of things I was thinking about the other day that were 2 years ago, and it seems a lifetime ago on the one hand, but also like yesterday. I don't get it. But yeah, this year's going way too quickly. And I was reflecting on this the other day and remembering back to an episode of QI, one of my absolute all-time favourite TV shows. I watch repeats of it ad infinitum. It's one of my favourite go-tos if I can't sleep. Oh, more on sleep later. But yeah, if I can't sleep, I'll watch some old episodes of QI. For those of you outside of the UK or who, I don't know if you get it on BritBox. Anyway, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, QI, as opposed to IQ, it stands for quite interesting, and it's a sort of general knowledge quiz panel show. So there are 3 guests and 1 regular. Alan Davis is the regular and 3 guests, and the guests are usually from the field of comedy. Occasionally they'll have a scientist on, or you know, a publicly known scientist, someone like Professor Brian Cox. And yeah, it's kind of it's general knowledge, but it's sort of turned on its head, because what you think is the obvious answer might be the wrong answer, and actually you get points for being quite interesting. So rather than showing off your IQ, it's about showing off your ability to be QI. It used to be hosted by Stephen Fry. I love Stephen Fry so much. I want him to be my best friend. He's so erudite and eclectic. Yeah, love that. But then the host changed to, I'm off at a tangent already, aren't I? Never mind. The host changed to Sandy Toksvig. And I remember thinking, no, I don't want Stephen to go. But actually, Ms. Toksvig has been fantastic in it. And now I actually think I prefer her hosting over Stephen. She's fantastic. You know, her and Claire Balding are my 2 absolute favourite women on telly. And they would be my dream dinner guests. Or I don't want to host. I don't want the stress of hosting. As I mentioned the other day, cooking for other people. But yeah, I'd love to be sitting at a table. You know what? Never mind dinner. Let's just go to the pub. Me, Sandy and Claire. Oh, be a hoot. Yes, so QI. The reason I was mentioning QI, one of the subjects one week was to do with time. And they were talking about a study that had been done. I think it was kind of like a proper scientific study by, you know, proper scientists, science people. They, you know, they and they said, they say we will, whatever. And what they did was it was a study to look at people's perception of time and how long a piece of time takes to pass. It's a bit here. And for instance, they surveyed or they tested a group of 20-year-olds and a group of 60-year-olds. And amazingly, the group of 60-year-olds did find that the chunk of time that they were supposed to assess, how long has passed, they assessed it as passing more quickly than their younger friends. So apparently, yes, as we get older, our perception of time is that it's going more quickly, which is really annoying because I've got too much to do. There's too much life to live and fun to be had. And I was thinking about it. Why do we feel? Because I really noticed it in myself in the last couple of years that it's something I feel. And I know Paul often, he's often reflected on this too. Why does it feel that time's going more quickly, that we're always running out of time, that there's never enough time to do things? And part of me wonders, say in comparison with the 20-year-olds, is it purely that as we get older, we have more responsibilities? So for instance, I think back to being 20. Actually, I was at uni, so you have to study, but basically my life was be at uni, doing my study, go out on a Friday night and paint the town red with my mates. That was it. They were my responsibilities. That was it. And of course, at 60, there's work, and there's children, grandchildren possibly, caring for elderly parents, all the hobbies you want to do, homes, home maintenance. In your 20s, you might buy your brand spanking gorgeous new home. Yay, nothing to do. And then as time goes on, the house starts to fall apart. And as we get older and our homes get older, there's more maintenance to do on the home. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's purely that as we get older, we just have more and more responsibilities. So there's more and more to try and fit into each day. And there's more and more that we don't manage to fit into each day, so it has to go into another day, and suddenly, the weekends are taken up with responsibilities too. I don't know. Or maybe, and it's kind of morbid in a way, but maybe is there a little voice right in the back of our heads that we don't really hear, but it's there, here, there, everywhere, that is telling us that we are running out of time. We're past the halfway mark in our lives. I almost certainly, it's not for definite, I come from quite a long-lived family. My nan was 99 when she died. My great-gran was 97. Teapot was 101. But, never mind, almost certainly I've gone past the halfway mark in my life. That's crazy. Because in my head I'm still 20, I'm still 30, I'm still really excited by life and the things I want to do. So maybe there's a little voice in the back there saying you're running out of time. I don't know. Now, look, I don't want to be morbid. We're all going to die. That's the truth of it, isn't it? We're going to die. Whatever you do. Anyway, so yeah, this sense of time it weirds me out. It weirds me out how, what did I do yesterday? Can't remember. What was I doing when I was 20? I remember it really well. And that's another thing, isn't it? I think our brains get stuffed with so much stuff that some things just have to be jettisoned. So short-term memory, not great. Long-term memory, spot on. I wish I had more time. I wish I had more time every day, every week in my life. There we go. But this year in particular, I feel like a lot of this year has been a bit wasted. And this isn't a boo-hoo, it's not a pity party at all, because I feel like I'm coming through that to another side, which is great. But yeah, it's kind of been frustrating, and maybe because so much of this year has been wasted, maybe that has made the year feel like it's gone really quickly. because maybe where I'm at the moment is where I was planning to be at in May. So maybe that's got something to do with it as well. But yeah, when I say so much of this year has been wasted, what I mean by that, excuse me, I always have a gazillion ideas, plans, projects, things I'd like to do. And not just all about, you know, earning a bit of cash or whatever, but just life in general, things I'd like to do for myself, purely for myself. And of course, you know, it was a bit of a rubbish start to the year. The whole of January, I was really struggling to be productive because I was so poorly. And of course, you know, I ended up in hospital, and then I came home in February, and I was sort of still really tired, but just gradually getting back on with things. And I did manage to get all the lavender bags done in February, which is great. But that's pretty much all I managed. All of the things that I planned in terms of tartification of the flat, you know, in terms of hoping to sell it, none of that happened. None. So I'll just tell you very quickly. No, I'll make a note. I haven't got a pen. I want to tell you about that. I'll tell you now quickly, because otherwise I'll forget. Last night, and this is something I do from time to time, I was just suddenly feeling really sort of like overwhelmed, and there are so many bits to my life anyway, as you'll have seen from that interview video I did the other day, all the different irons in the fire, but that's just kind of the public stuff. Of course I have other irons in other fires, which are just personal things. Feeling a bit overwhelmed, going a bit like, Argh. So I thought, right, the pin board, which is like Operation Vivi's Kitchen Garden HQ, it's everything, had kind of built up layers. More and more stuff was getting pinned on it. So I brought it in the living room, I got myself on the floor with it, and I had a blank notebook, an A4 notebook, took everything off and made a note of what's all the outstanding stuff, all the stuff that's coming up, categorised it. Is it garden? Is it the home? Is it personal? All that kind of stuff. Went through the whole lot to come up with a new plan to take me right through to next spring. It felt great to get that done. It really gave me a lot of clarity. It's great helping me kind of, you know, I can move forward now much more calmly because there's a plan. The reason I was mentioning it though is because the last sheet of paper that's been pinned over and pinned over and pinned over was the plan I did last November. And so this is back to what I was saying about this year has felt like a waste of time. And underneath, as I was looking, it says January, paint kitchen. February, paint hall. And what was I doing? What was I doing in January and February? Coughing, being poorly, and making some lavender bags. So at least I did do the lavender bags. But actually, just a point on that, I think that's quite a good tip for any. I mean, I know there's a load of you who are list makers, etc., etc. But I think it's probably a good idea every now and again. Maybe I should do it myself monthly. Is to say, you know, and you feel like you're getting in a bit of a tizzy and things are sort of getting on top of you, getting out of control, getting too messy, take a deep breath, go back to all your lists and consolidate them and really sort of prioritise. But also I think sometimes we put things on a list which, you know what, they really don't need to be on a list. But yeah, just that consolidation of all those scraps of paper that were reminders. If I think of something, because there's so much going on all the time, I'll think of something and then almost instantly forget it unless I make a note of it. So it goes on the pin board. Anyway, that was a great job done last night. Anyway, so back to this year, this whole waste of time business. Oh, my tummy's gurgling. As it's properly known, it's called borborygmus. And that's a word I learnt from QI. I love that show. Yeah, I mean, we all know by now, it all went a bit pear-shaped. And that's, you know, when I hurt my back, I was really, really sensible. I didn't push it. I stayed at home. I did my stretches, did my yoga, did my exercises. By golly, it's frustrating. It's frustrating if you're a really active person. I don't mean active like hiking, active as in never wasting a minute of the day. It's so frustrating if you're that type of person and then either you get ill or you get an injury, which means you just have to slow down. So the first 6 months of this year, for 3.5 months, I was slowed down by either being ill, and then COVID, of course, stupid blimmin' COVID. Whoever breathed on me, thanks. And the back injury. So yeah, I think that's warped my sense of time this year too, because I feel like that's kind of what it feels like. I feel like I feel like I was robbed of a great chunk of this year. A great chunk of it. You know, I can't do anything about it. It's happened. I suppose one reflects on it to think about how is there a way to make sure that doesn't happen again, or is there a way to cope with that if it happens again, etc., etc. But I think the main thing, you see, this was also a waste of time. Drought is a huge waste of time because schlepping backwards and forwards to the garden every day, lugging those blimmin' cans that weigh a ton when they're full of water, absolute waste of time. Well, no, it's not an absolute waste of time, is it? Of course, because it's food production. That's not a waste of time. But it, you know, and when I think back to the previous and when I think back to the summer of 2021, I didn't do any watering. All those hours of watering that I didn't do last year, that I was free to do other stuff. So yeah, that's felt like another robbing of my time. And then, of course, the really hot days. There were a couple of really sweltering weeks in July, another really sweltering week in August, where just, you know, when the temperature in the flat was over 30, easily over 30, and a lot of days was 36, 37 in here. It's so enervating. We've talked about that before. That reduces productivity too. Anyway, the point is, sorry, yeah, it just feels like it's been a weird year this year. I feel like a lot of time has gone down the drain, but the great thing is I feel like I'm just now starting to get back on top of things. I'm being more productive. The weather has cooled a bit. I feel, apart from the obvious thing of my knees, I feel fit and healthy and well. So that's really good. I feel like I feel today as if we're just going to go into spring. That's the kind of feeling I've got of, oh yeah, I'm about to be really productive. And in a way, it's warped, isn't it? It's the wrong way around. I should be now kind of tailing off, paring down, getting ready to hunker down for the winter. But no, I'm now like, yay, come on, let's get at it. Yeah, it's all, everything feels warped and wonky and this year. The good thing is, I did at least manage to produce a bit of a garden this year, and it looks like finally I'm going to be starting to harvest in bulk soon, so that's great. And, you know, having made that decision that I'm going to be leaving the garden, it's sort of already in my head there's going to be less to do in the autumn and winter, which frees me up to do things at home. Great. I'm really looking forward to it all. I do feel really optimistic. That's brilliant. Oh yeah, so the other thing I was going to say about time, it's all about time today. This has occurred to me the last couple of days. And why was I mentioning sleep? Oh, my poor brain. My poor adult brain. So back in July, when the temperature just climbing and climbing, and it became obvious to me that, okay, I'm not going to be able to do much in the garden unless I do it in the morning. And as I've mentioned before, you know by now, I'm definitely a night owl. 2 o'clock in the morning, wide awake, feel energised, productive, what have you. 7 o'clock in the morning, I hate it. It's an ungodly hour to me. You know, there's always that kind of slightly like, down the nose thing of larks when they say, well, you've missed the best part of the day. And there's almost an implication, an inference, that if you don't get up till 9 o'clock, you're lazy and unproductive. It's like, no, of course not. I'm just doing it at a different time of day. You know, when I'm being productive and working at 2 a.m. and the morning larks are in bed, I don't sneer at them and say, well, you're not getting anything done, are you? Anyway, larks and owls, us and them. It's like cat people and dog people, isn't it? You know, let's just all we'll just be people. But I'm definitely a night owl. But in July, you know, it was by 9 o'clock in the morning, it was too hot to be doing anything really physical in the garden. It was beautiful and perfectly gorgeous for just sitting and doing nothing. But of course, there's no time to sit and do nothing most days. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I love summer, I love warmth. I quite enjoy heat even, if I'm doing nothing, if I'm on holiday. But anyway, I kind of realised, you know what, I'm just going to have to start getting up really early and getting to the garden. The aim was to get to the garden by 7 at the latest, which would mean leaving home at about 6:30, 20 to 7 in the morning, which would mean getting up at about 5:30. There were a few days I managed to get up even earlier and get to the garden for about 6, just about. At one point I thought about just not going to bed, just stay up and carry on. But so I had to kind of force myself to be a lark. Now I hoped that what would happen would be that over time I would be so tired at say 10, 11 in the evening that I'd go to sleep. The other thing was, because at the end of July I was going to have that little trip with my sister, just, I think, was it 3 nights? I was bearing in mind the fact that she's a lark, definitely not an owl. So I was trying to change my entire physiology to fit with her, so that we can get up in the morning and get out and make the most of the day. But also it would be a case of going to bed at 10 o'clock. I'm going to have to go to sleep. So I did it for almost the entire month of July. But I never, despite feeling so tired at 10, 11 in the evening, I never did manage to go to sleep at that time. I was still ending up going to sleep at sort of 2, 3 in the morning. So it meant that for the most of July, I was doing about 4 hours sleep a night at most. Now, the reason I was thinking about that, it's all to do with this time. We should have had Doctor Who today, shouldn't we, with us? Time and relative dimensions in space. My head is a TARDIS. Yeah, I really, really tried to force myself to change from an owl to a lark. Forced myself to get up in those mornings. Forced myself to go to bed earlier. And after about a month of it, you'd think that that would be cemented. No, didn't work. Yes, I did get up early and do all those, either for the watering of the garden or for when I was away with my sister. Yes, I went to bed at 10 at night. But I was just like, wide awake. Don't get up, Vivi. Don't just go to sleep. 11 o'clock, wide awake. Just knackered, but wide awake. So I'd read. The reason I was thinking about that was because as we went into August, the very end of July, the weather cooled ever so slightly, and I slipped straight back into my old waking routine. And it's like, right, I'm not getting up till 8. 8 o'clock is the earliest I'm getting up. Go to the garden at 9. Get to the garden for 9:30, 10, whatever. I slipped straight back into it. There wasn't an ounce of me that had become a lark. But I was thinking the other day that, oh my goodness, we're a couple of days away from autumn. How did it happen? I'm not done with summer yet. I say every year, I'm never done with summer yet. But yeah, it's going to be autumn. And the days are getting shorter. And the other evening in here, I put the light on at 8 o'clock in the evening, and I clocked the time. It's 8 o'clock. Like, it just feels like it was only a couple of weeks ago that I didn't have to put the light on till 9:30 in the evening. Suddenly it's 8 o'clock. And it got me thinking, the days are shrinking. Maybe I ought to try turn myself into a lark thing again, so that I can get up earlier, so that the minute it's light I can hit the ground running. I'm talking about making the most of the daylight hours, whether it's for gardening, whether it's for filming, whether it's for sewing, photographing. So much of what I do depends on having light. So yeah, is it an experiment I want to try again? Someone was asking me about naps. Do I ever nap? Oh, I love napping. I so love napping. I used to nap at the drop of a hat. Hatting. But I've really been trying not to in the last couple of years or so, because I do have trouble sleeping, and I was advised to knock the naps on the head because it was possibly disturbing my nighttime sleeping. So I rarely nap anymore. Every now and again, just every now and again. There was a day when my sister and I were away. It might have been the day when we were going to the theatre in the evening. That might have been it. We'd been to the cathedral in the morning, and we'd walked around, and we'd had lunch, and we'd mooched back to our accommodation. Sort of maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2, 3. And we both went into our rooms to have our book time, quiet time, what have you. And I set the alarm so I wouldn't do it too much, but I had a half-hour nap. I just lay there. Starfish, oh, it was delish. But yeah, I try not to nap because I don't want to disturb the nighttime sleep. Is it possible to change ourselves in that way, or are we just wired? I do think we're wired differently. Some people are so naturally bright and bouncy in the morning, and they can't stay awake past 10 in the evening, and I'm naturally bright and bouncy at 2 in the morning. Can I change? I don't know. I might try, but I don't know whether that just messes my head up too much. I don't mean like messes my head up. Oh, it's going to make me, like psychologically. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know whether it's me trying to go too much against my natural wiring, as it were. The other thing about sort of time and clocks and this morning, night, of course, is that seasonal clock, that seasonal body clock that we have. And I don't know, I think we probably all have a seasonal clock to some degree. Maybe growers are slightly more attuned to their... My belly's really rumbling, sorry. Maybe growers are slightly more attuned to their seasonal clock, or anyone that works outside, actually. Maybe even I was thinking about these guys the other day as well, our street cleaners, because they're outside all the time. So they're feeling the temperature. They are, they're picking up the amount of light they're getting each day. But yeah, I definitely feel that seasonal clock in me has been ticking, and there is something inside me that it's not a voiced thing, it's not put into words particularly, but when I think about it, I think of it in words, because we think in words generally, don't we? We think in pictures, but I'm thinking in words, thinking out loud in words. That this seasonal clock in me is somehow telling me that I need to start preparing for a shift, and that shift is prepare now to gather food like a squirrel. It's sort of telling me to prepare my home. It's preparing me to make my nest for the winter. I don't know. I think you'll understand what I mean without thinking I'm completely doolally. Where does that clock, that seasonal clock, come from? Is it all to do with the amount of light that's coming into our eyes and the brain is getting a message that the light is changing? Is it to do with temperature? My belly. Is it to do with the temperature on our skin? I don't think it's a temperature thing because it's still pretty warm and muggy. I mean, I was just out an hour or so ago, came home, and I was going to start filming straight away, and I thought, no, I've got to have a minute to cool down because I was all red and sweaty again. So I don't think it's a temperature thing, so maybe it's just a light thing. Maybe it's just an incredibly sort of, it's a primeval part of us that just knows that it's time to prepare to come in somewhere safe, close the cold, the dark out, and as part of that coming in safe, the nesting, the gathering of food, the gathering of the harvests, the putting up of the harvests, the getting out of the cupboard or from under the bed or wherever it is you keep them, the blankets, the duvets will be going back on the beds. Yeah, I quite like it. There's a joy in that sense of coziness to come. God, I hope it's cozy. Might not be that cozy. But anyway, there we go. That's a long, rambling kind of thoughts at the end of the month. But this is the stuff that's been going through my mind in the last few weeks or so. Just this time seems to be really warped. The time this year has gone too quickly. My own personal timings of morning or night, is it possible to turn into a completely different person, become a morning light? I don't know. And that real sense at the moment of that shift, that preparation for indoor time. Look, the wrap up, Vivi. The food production this year is definitely down. There's no two ways about it. I think that's partly because those couple of beds that I just was never able to get done. Never mind. Almost certainly down in terms of the beans. However, they did start flowering again, and what I'm hoping is that we'll be mild enough through September and October that maybe, just maybe, I'll get a harvest from this second flush of flowers. Generally speaking, I should be frost free here until about mid-October. It could be even later. There have been years when I haven't had my first frost until the second week of November. Oh my goodness, that will be really super handy this year. But yeah, overall the harvest is way down. That, you know what, that was kind of apparent to me really, you know, a couple of months ago that was going to be the case. So I've already braced myself for the fact that I'm going to be buying more food this year than ever. Well, not necessarily this year, but as we go into next year, there will be more food to have to be bought. But like I said in a previous video, that's okay because I'm just kind of gently letting go of the garden. It's giving me more time to create and do other things that I can bring a bit more income in from in order to pay for the extra food. So I'm not worried at all. Just a little bit disappointed by how this year went, but you know what, I think it's been hard and disappointing for so many people, massively because of drought, for some people because of heat, for some people it's completely different reason. But I know, having spoken to quite a few people in messages, there have been quite a few people, and this year was their first year and they hated it and they just want to pack it all in and never do it again. So hopefully, if you know folk like that on your site as well, hopefully we can encourage everyone that tried this year and didn't do very well, that this year was a bit of a freaky year. Next year should, could, might be better. But yeah, I think you know, globally many of us have struggled with our gardens this year. We're all in the same boat. Globally, farmers have struggled this year. So, you know, my peace of mind is, it's not me, I haven't done anything wrong. You know, there was so much out of my control, and that there are so many of us in this boat. I take comfort from that. I take comfort from being in a sinking boat with other people. Oh, right, my lovelies, I'm going to go because I'm going to spin out into massive waffle territory otherwise. I will see you all again really soon. Hopefully I'll adjust the clock in my head and adjust the seasonal clock in my heart and all those things, and be a bit more next time. Probably, yeah, let's get back to the garden soon. Oh yes, there's an important job to do. We'll get on with that in the next video in the garden. I'll see you then. But until then, please look after yourselves, look after your clocks, look after your calendars. We've got to turn the calendar page again. Oh my goodness, too many pages turned this year already. All right, lovelies, lots of love to you all. Be well, stay safe. Cheerio.